With the NFL season in full swing, we decided to talk about the similarities between American football and the real brand of football. What started as making fun of a football that was shaped like an egg and a very easy rule to kick the ball between two behemoth posts, we started realizing that a lot of teams in the NFL are very much similar to teams in the Premier League. Quite a few teams in Europe now have American owners, so it is time to look at the NFL franchises through a strictly Premier League lens. San Francisco 49ers and Aston Villa. Okay, so here's the reason why these two sides are so similar. Both enjoyed a lot of success during the 70s and then the 80s. These days, they aren't winning much, but you still like to see them play because they are very entertaining to watch. Brentford and Carolina Panthers. The 2021-22 campaign was Brentford's first in top-flight English football, and Thomas Frank's men did a very good job and made sure that they survived the drop. It was all about playing it safe and solidifying their presence among the English elite. Of course, you have no relegation in the NFL and most American sports in general, but the Panthers are also more interested in building and stabilizing their structure before exploding on the stage. Brighton and Pittsburgh Steelers. Under Graham Potter, Brighton have done an amazing job. Their English manager is definitely one of the best around and should be given more respect than the likes of Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard. However, the young tactician isn't too bothered about these things, just like Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin, who has led the team to 10 playoff runs and 7 division titles since joining them in 2007. We can hope for Potter to enjoy similar success. Chelsea and Baltimore Ravens. There was this one instance when Eden Hazard kicked a ball boy for wasting time. That caused quite an uproar, and the Belgian was fined and suspended for his actions. Well, it appears that the future is now, old man, because the Baltimore Ravens took the short end of the stick. Poe, their mascot, was apparently tackled by a kid in full uniform and ended up injuring his left knee. He was even carted off the field. There was a time when Baltimore Ravens were known as Baltimore Browns. We can say the same for Chelsea, who used to be crap before a certain Russian decided to indulge them. Sounds familiar, right? Newcastle and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, so this one is definitely unfair, but our comparison is born out of what we experienced when the Magpies had an owner named Mike Ashley for several years. No one liked him or the managers he usually hired. From aging coaches looking to resurrect a team to giving chances to players who probably never deserved, that's exactly what Tampa Bay Buccaneers have pioneered over the years. Norwich City and Green Bay Packers. Yes, they're back in the championship, but how can you not compare Norwich City with the Green Bay Packers? Both teams are mediocre at best, but both have two really good players in Timu Pukki and Aaron Rodgers, but the latter makes more money for sure. Southampton and the other Saints. You're definitely in line for some divine intervention when your last name is literally a saint. Both Southampton and New Orleans Saints have been out partying with the big boys for a number of years, but haven't won much. For Southampton, they have been very lucky because a lot of times their performances warrant at least a serious relegation scare. Fun fact, New Orleans Saints are also called the Aints because in 1980 they lost their first 14 games and were advised by a local sportscaster to cover their heads with paper bags. Crystal Palace and New York Giants. You really need to know? Both teams are from the biggest cities in their respective countries, and let's be honest, both kinda suck. Everton and LA Chargers. We just had to bring in the comparisons. Both teams are great at getting in their own way. They aren't really bad, but just live under the shadow of their more illustrious neighbors. Everton have Liverpool and the Chargers have the Rams. According to a consensus, 26% of locals consider the Rams as their favorite team. Leeds United and Buffalo Bills. Both teams used to be very good and then disappeared into the void for a good part of the 21st century. However, they're now back, have a decent manager, and playing good football again. There's two answers to this statement. Leicester City and Seattle Seahawks. Both teams recently won their very first ever titles, and both have been very shrewd when it comes to signing the right players. The Foxes have done well in the FA Cup, winning it once and reaching the last 8 regularly. The Seahawks have made regular appearances in the playoffs. Liverpool and Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams have high-octane attacking intent, have lightning pace, and some really talented players. Defensively, cracks are starting to appear. Manchester United and Dallas Cowboys. Both are the biggest teams in the country, despite not winning anything of great significance in recent years. Their history still weighs heavily on them. There also have been a clear lack of philosophy for a number of years, so you know what we're trying to say here. Tottenham and Minnesota Vikings. Both teams bottle it whenever it matters the most. West Ham and New York Jets. Both teams pretend to be really good and have us believe that they are good after some consistent performances. However, deep down we all know they would eventually crumble. So guys, these are some of the NFL teams which we believe you should be supporting based on the team you follow in the Premier League. We've left a few teams for you to look at, so sound off in the comments.